First and foremost, just do it. And I'll elaborate on that. I feel like a lot of people get hung up on a situation of what if they say no, or there's always this big anxiety around dating. Just do it. Just do it. You know, again, the worst thing they can, I mean, I guess no, the worst thing they can say isn't just no, because they could laugh at you. But, you know, you have to start somewhere. You know, you can't just, you know, you can't just live in your room all day or, you know, you can't just be, if you're looking for a relationship, you can't just be kind of like floating by. You really need to, like, you know, latch onto the opportunities that do come by you. I don't know, you seem like you had one prep.
It's just more like, at least the first thing coming to my mind, especially like watching my sister date but other people, it's like, we kind of touched on like communicating earlier, but specifically just being willing to air your concerns and also be okay with theirs about you. Because it's not, if you take things like criticism, or like if they have issues with you, like something you do or like one of your habits or something, and you just take it as an attack when it's not, you know, when it's not meant to be that way, you know, like don't take things like it's like you versus them. If you're willing, like, you know, you're not perfect. And despite, you know, what your first month love, you know, goggles got you thinking, they're not perfect either. And just being, I guess, being willing to acknowledge that, you know, they're a person, they're working on themselves, you're working on yourself. So they're not always going to be perfect. And just being willing to forgive them for that, or like work with them through that while they work with you on you. Because I think it's like, it's so easy to like go on Tinder and you're like, oh, not my standards. Oh, that was weird. Oh, nope, that's gross. It's like, talked about with like you is, even though, you know, we've been together for a while, you know, I asked about is like previous relationships, you know, how they went. And I was like, yeah, no, she was in the wrong there, but you could have done like better there. Not as a, like a, wow, you were really crappy.
Yeah, no, I
was just like, you know, just to give them like some perspective, or, you know, like Derek helping me, like I was very like indecisive. I have a hard time like doing things, and rather than be like aggressive about it, be like, you're lazy. You know, he's like, okay, so how do I help you do things? How do we like schedule so that you can get stuff done? What do I need to do? Like just like being willing to make them a better person. Because I feel like that's what you'd want for yourself, right? It's like someone who makes you better. But you have to be willing to do the same in a relationship, I think. Versus like the second they don't meet your standards anymore, you just drop it, give up, or, you know, think less of them for it. Obviously, you know, there's some red flags that you can't fix. I'm not saying that, but, you know, like I said, like goes back to like how long we've been together. We've grown and changed so much. Like some things have stayed the same, but like how we are as people, the way just so much has changed. And not like, you know, like one thing you said is like when he met me, you know, I was a little more bubbly, I'd say, you know, a little more happy-go-lucky, and then I kind of like mellowed out through the years. I wasn't as clingy, you know. After you've lived together 6 years, it's hard to be as clingy as you were when we're around each other all the time. But he didn't get mad, or you're not like, oh, you don't love me anymore. I mean, he kind of brought it up. He's like, you know, it's clingy anymore. I'm like, yeah, you know, well, we live together. And so, you know, just explaining things, and he's like, yeah, I guess that's true. Just how we change like that. I'd say just make each other better people, or go in there with that man's mindset. Maybe. I mean, don't fix people. Gosh, but
I mean, on that, but before you, I do want to add on to what you were saying though. Is this is just a piece of advice, maybe to people who are in a new relationship or have only been together for a couple of years, is to expect change, because no situation is going to stay the same forever. It's and you know, I will live by that 20 years from now. You know, is things are going to change. So expect change from yourself, expect change from your partner, and be ready to, it's just this, I don't know, being in a relationship is this big complex machine where you need to expect the breakdowns, you need to perform maintenance, and and you need to be ready for new updates, just all of it. So expecting change is a big piece of advice I would offer.
Yeah, I don't really have too much advice for the single people. Like I said, we met on a video game. That's it. We didn't deal like with any like Tinder stuff, anything like that. I know like that's like what a lot of people go to.
But I guess I kind of liked how Derek shifted I also loved your comparison, by the way. I thought that was like fantastic, just like comparing it to a machine. But you're right, like with like status update, like I love like the imagery of that. But you're right, like even something like a machine that you think is rote and performs like in a certain way, like you said, like even like that as a concept, like reality, machines need to be updated, like there's maintenance and stuff. So sorry, I know that's like, I'm trying to be like, not add commentary, but I thought that was like a really good example. But I guess like, so I guess, well, since, and to your point, like, since you guys, met in high school, I liked how Derek maybe like rephrased the question to like maybe advice for people who are in, new relationships or who've been together only for a couple of years. So do you have anything to, I guess, like to add with that?
I don't know, it's hard because yours like hit on that really good, is like expecting change, because usually like that first year, you're like floating together.
It's
you're
the
just, like,
honeymoon
living,
phase,
honeymoon,
yeah.
Right. But then, that dies off, you've asked each other all the questions that you can think of. Like
I still think of new ones sometimes. You do too.
Well, but like we'd literally play like the question game where it's like, okay, what's your favorite food? What's this? What's that? Eventually, like
expect change, and then you can ask an all new set of questions because those things may have changed. Boom. Recycle or reduce, reuse, recycle.
Nice.
I mean, it's hard because it's not advice, because like trust is like a thing. But for us, that was like the big thing, because we're online. He could have been off cheating on me. I could have been off cheating on him. There's no way of knowing unless someone like reported on us, I guess. But I can't imagine like dealing with that. Like we don't, like I can get on his phone at any time and he can get on mine, but never at any point were we like, give me your phone, let me see your phone, check that, who are you talking to, why are you talking to her? I was like, oh, I'm like, who's that? He's like, Danielle, she's my friend from high school. I'm like, oh, she's pretty. Yeah. It's just like not assuming the worst from them, or just like expect from them what you expect from yourself. So don't, because I'm hoping these couples are planning on like running around to cheat, but don't assume the worst from him. Don't assume like he's just, everything he's doing is something unfaithful, something to make you mad. Just like just trust in them, I guess. I mean, obviously, situations change, but I can't imagine like what it would have been like having to freak out every day that you were talking to some girl at college or something, and you doing the same. Like, oh my gosh, my freshman year, you were like freaking out.
I was
thinking I was, because I started going to football games and I never go, but I was in high school, because high school here starts, no, I like sophomore year. High school here started at 10th grade. And I was like, I'd never been, and I was going a few times, and it was so out of character for me that you were like anxious about it. You're like, is she talking to somebody there? But I very quickly stepped on that, and I was like, no.
Well, you've always been really good at setting boundaries for things, though, and I think that's something that
be willing
kind
to do
of
that.
let me trust you. Was you very clearly laid out how things were, and that was that.
Yeah. Yeah, basically, if
also boundaries,
you're with someone,
that's another,
you're scared of cheating.
Rewind on the advice thing. Boundaries are very important.
Yeah, oh well, there's one boundary I can think of.
And when you say
It's
boundaries,
hard.
like, what do you mean exactly? Or like, what are there any that you haven't like that you're thinking of like specifically?
I guess like, one thing there, Kesaia just said, hey, look, I'm going to these football games now. That's where I'm at. Deal with it. I say that so bluntly, but obviously, she was able to
Yeah.
put it in a way where I'm like, okay, that's it. And I hate for it to come across as possessive in any way. But, I didn't know. I didn't know where she was. I did, she didn't have a phone
Yeah,
at
because
the
it's hard, like
time.
basically, if we're not being online, if I'm not on my computer or like on a phone, which I didn't have at the time, we're not together at that time. Because that's our together time, is texting each other and like staying in contact. So like I acknowledge that to him, it's like, you can see why it bothers you. I don't like it either, not texting you, but I also want to go do other
you needed
things.
you time, yeah.
Yeah, ooh, that's another thing, you time. Especially like us, like we're together all the time. His desk, like you saw, is like right over there. But especially in like those first years too, you're like, we're like this. I am with him, he is with me. But you have to keep yourself. You can't be like, if you did break up, it can't be like you're nothing without them. So you have to, I just say like, especially like at that like couple of years mark early at the beginning, just remember to maintain yourself, don't drop off all your friends. Don't lose who you are in becoming a couple.
Yeah.
Maybe even now, still take time for ourselves, like holidays, or I just go downstairs and do stuff with my sister instead of staying up here all day with you. You have like your walks. So if you have to, like in our case, like, we have to like make us like our self time.
Yeah.
Both me times. I don't know how to phrase that.
Yeah.
But that has also helped us like feel better because we don't have to feel like, we're suffocating each other.
Yeah.
And also being okay with your partner needing me time. As fun as it is to like cling to them and know where they are all the time and text constantly and send pictures and do everything together. Like with the football game, learning how to let them still be their own person and still do the things they were doing before they met you, or new things that they're into that you might not have expected. Now you'd want the same for you. That's what I just keep going back to. Like for me, it's like that golden rule stuff where it's like I treat him how I'd want to be treated, with like respect. He's like, he's a loud guy, and early on he kind of had like yelling problems, or if he was doing something intense and on a video game and I'd like try to talk him, he'd be like, what? And I'm like, I'm not okay with being spoken to like that. And the first like reasoning that comes to mind for me, like he's like, what's the big deal? I'm like, I would never speak to you like that. Because why, like, it's like a respect, love thing. I love you. I don't want to yell at you.
Yeah.
And, just being, it's also, I think, the Cuban. It took a while, but he learned. And I also like that, that he was willing to. He wasn't just like, no, you're stupid and overreacting. Never done any of that. No gaslighting here.
No. You have to be comfortable with yourself before you can be comfortable with someone else. It's, I mean, I think we just met so young to where that was, I don't know, that wasn't really something I think that either of us thought about.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it would, if we ever broke up, for example, I would definitely have to do some major reassessing of myself. Is, what, I guess maybe that's getting on to another point. But definitely being okay with you yourself before you can be okay with someone else.
Yeah, I feel like if you're not comfortable with yourself, if you can't like give yourself love, you kind of like project that stuff onto your partner. So if you think you're fat, whenever they look at you, you're gonna think, oh, they're thinking I'm fat, and just like all kinds of things like that. Or like you worry like a ton about cheating. Like I've had to get my sister, she's like constantly stressing about it. And I'm like, that just don't even, obviously, like if you see something going on, it's like actually suspicious, I'm not saying, just ignore the red flags, but don't go
looking for red flags.
don't expect that. Gosh, like words are hard. Mainly it's just like if you love yourself, it's kind of like, it's like with like even just like a self-confidence thing, when you stop judging other people, or like when you stop judging yourself and thinking like the worst of yourself, like, oh, I look like crap, I do this, you stop thinking that about other people. You're not worried about them like judging you. Like I don't ever worry about Derek. I'm like, some days I have a day where I just need a day in bed. I'm just on my phone in bed for a day. I feel like crap. I'm like, I should have been productive, but I know Derek isn't over there like, oh my gosh, she's so lazy. What the hell? I don't think you're ever thinking like anything bad of me. And it's made everything like so much more relaxing, stress-free. Because of all the things that like life is already so stressful, having to worry about if love of my life is not loving me, that's, I don't know, I can't imagine dealing with that. So I'd recommend you, obviously, like self-confidence and like loving yourself is a lot easier said than done. But even if you don't fully love yourself yet, start to, because there's a reason your partner loves you. So that's another piece too. Just try to see yourself from their perspective, because like basically if you're saying if you don't love yourself, you're saying the reasons they love you are invalid or aren't good reasons. That's how I like had to reason with myself through it.
Right.
Like example, like he likes that I'm nurturing, he loves me for that, and it's like nurturing is some like that's a good quality to like. You have that, you can like that about yourself,
right? Right.
Versus like being like, no, I'm not that nurturing, or I'm not this.
Mm.
So just stealing their reasons they love you for yourself.
Oh.
Not so much for new couples, but maybe people getting tired of their relationship, getting bored with someone, to just remind yourself why you fell in love with them. Because it's, especially like when you're together so long, it's like easy to start taking those things for granted. Like, yeah, like you're always kind and help people, but like recall those situations. Like Derek, like once again, being like kind and helpful is, he's a homeless guy outside of the gas station, me being trained, I'd be like, just don't look, ignore. Not that I don't feel bad and don't want to help the hopeless, but I just like, just stick to my business. That's what I was taught. And Derek's like, are you hungry? Yeah. And he just goes and just buys him some food, buys him a gallon of milk, buys him some whatever the stuff that he asked for. You won't give him money, but if they want some food, you won't hesitate to just do that for them. And like remembering things like that are just moments that reinforced why I loved him. Just keep those, and remind yourself, because it's really easy to like get complacent and forget how great they really are.
It's really special. Oh my god, you guys, I'm gonna cry.